When I was in 4th grade, going into 5th grade, that summer, my mother was remarried. My father left us when I was 3. Some of you come from a divorced family. That's not your fault, by the way. And circumstances outside of your control in your life are the will of God for your life. And God's at work, and don't you think that God can't use you because you're the only kid in the youth group or one of the only ones that has a dysfunctional home. Don't think that. My mother raised us by herself for 7 years. Us, meaning my brother and me. She raised us. And then when I was 10, my mother remarried. 9 going on 10 that summer. And we moved from our little small town of East Hartland, where everybody knew everybody, to a much larger town in Connecticut called Newington, just south of Hartford. For the first time in my life, I was in a school where I didn't know everybody. For the first time in my life, I was in a school. There were other elementary schools in that same town. And the small town in which I grew up, only one school. But in that town, there were other elementary schools. And not only other elementary schools, even in my school, there were other 5th grade classrooms. So consequently, I felt like a needle in the haystack. For the first time in my life, I heard kids swear. I had never heard that before in my life. Growing up in our small town, I'd never heard kids use cuss words. I'd heard kids say mean things, but I'd never heard a kid cuss. I mean, after all, in my small town, if you cussed, somebody would find out about it. Some kid would tell his parent, would tell your parent, you don't want to do that. But I went to this public school, and everybody cussed. I started to cuss too. I said, really, I did. I'm not proud of it. I was unsaved. I said bad things like Tar Heel. I said really bad words like Tim Hicks. But now, all kidding aside, I did say some bad things. I wanted to fit in desperately. I wanted to fit in. So I said some bad things. Brother Tim, I'm serious about this. For the first time in my life, I was offered drugs in 5th grade. First time in my life, I saw kids drink alcohol at a party in 5th grade. 5th grade! I remember in 6th grade, a boy by the name of John Lennox came to school, to my woodworking class. He came into class drunk. In my middle school, these were things that I was seeing. I went to that middle school, and I felt lost in 6th grade. I knew everybody in my classroom back in East Hartland, but now there's 100 6th graders on my team of 6th graders, and there are 3 teams. There are 300 6th graders and 800 kids in the school, and I really felt out of place. Back in my little school, back in East Hartland, where everybody knew everybody, we didn't have the fancy classes. We didn't have music class, and we didn't have art class, and that kind of thing. But in this school, they had everything. A beautiful gymnasium, a beautiful music classes. I took guitar lessons, Brother Bruce, in 6th grade. We took keyboard class in 6th grade. And I had all kinds of music lessons and art classes. I remember art class. They wanted to introduce us, make us well-balanced. And so they introduced us to all the various types of art, which is what every 6th grader wants. Yeah, right. So we went to art class, and the first art class they stuck us in was sewing class. Sewing is not an art. Sewing is what your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother did. Nobody sews anymore. That's what factories do when we buy our clothes at normal stores like Walmart. But they wanted to make us sew, Miss Dorothy. And so they gave us the material and the stuffing so that we could all make stuffed animals. Isn't that great? You know, what 6th grade boy wants to make a stuffed animal? And if he does, there's something wrong with him. I hated that class, that art class, until I discovered that there are other things you can do with needles and thread. We discovered that you can thread those needles multiple times and create a feathering effect, a la an arrow. And then you can take the guts out of a Bic pen and use it as a blow dart. And we walk around the hallways looking for large students saying, "There she blows!" It was great. There's a rule named after me at that middle school for blowing darts at people. So we had a good time in sewing class while it lasted. But alas, 6 weeks in, we had to move on to our next survey art class, which was cooking. Cooking is not an art. No, it's not. Guys, cooking is something girls do for us. Amen? And girls, cooking is something chefs do for you when guys take you out to eat. Amen? But cooking is not something I do. So, in a fit of stupidity, I decided to team up with 3 of my other 6th grade guy friends, which, looking back, I should have chosen some girl that knew what she was doing. But I chose 3 guys who had never cooked me. We couldn't make toast. I'm not kidding you. And so now we're supposed to cook together and get a grade on this. So we're in cooking class. We had 2 major projects. Number 1, we're supposed to make cookies in cooking class. How hard is it to make cookies? Since I've actually made cookies since then, it's not hard. You just put the little things on the tray and put it in. It's all kind of, mostly it's pre-made anyway. But we fell woefully behind on our cookie making in cooking class, and so we decided to take all the dough and make one big cookie. Which, by the way, does not work unless you have an oven that you can keep on for the next 4.5 days. So we packed this thing out. It was about that thick. We cooked it for 45 minutes. The crust was done. The inside was still liquid. And so we tried to convince the teacher that we meant to make cookie soup. Yum, this is good. She gave us an F. And then we had blueberry muffins we were supposed to make. How hard could it possibly be to make a blueberry muffin? But we messed it up. We forgot the one main step in making blueberry muffins. We forgot to strain the blueberries. So instead of dropping just the blueberries in the batter, we put the blueberries in all the blueberry juice, which, by the way, we did not spill when some invisible person tried to trip us. We dipped it in there. We made our blueberry muffins, which now weigh about 80 pounds each because they're full of blueberry juice. And they're now staining the walls because we're throwing the blueberries at each other like hand grenades. We got an F on that one, too. But we were excited because, Brother Tim, we moved from sewing class and cooking class to the men's class. Metalworking. Ah! Like this guy down here. Ah, bless God. Metalworking. We're excited about metalworking class until we met the teacher. His name was Mr. Zawissa. And he was a direct descendant of Joseph Stalin. I'm telling you, the guy was as mean as could be. He walked around like a little Nazi goose step in class. You will like this class. You will make things out of metal, or I will kill you. I went and stood in the corner for the entire class. Lord, get me out of here, please. I'll go to China and be a missionary. Just get me out. So metalworking class was not fun at all because Mr. Zawissa was very, very strange and weird. The only class I actually liked in art class was the next class, which was woodworking class with Mr. Fabian. That was a great class. Well, I loved it. They gave me 2 projects to work on in woodworking. One was I made an actual jewelry box for my mom. I sold it to her for $29.99. She's still making payments. I made that jewelry box, and then I made, and this is going to really date me, back in my day, this is mid-70s now, this was the age of disco, which was a form of music back then, in my unsaved youthful days that I listened to periodically. And so I decided that I wanted to make a light box to which I could dance. Who says white men have no rhythm? Man, I was dancing away, Saturday Night Fever. I mean, it was great. I made a light box and a jewelry box. I was loving life, living large in woodworking class. But all good things come to an end.